Process to have his license revoked. He will be notified that he will have 20 days to request an appeal. If he fails to request an appeal, or his appeal is denied, he will have 60 days to notify all of his tenants that after the 60-day deadline, the properties will be deemed uninhabitable and the utilities will be disconnected. At this point, he will have to wait 6 months before he can register these properties again.
Now, that's if we follow the ordinance as written.
Yes, yes. These properties have not been inspected because he's keeping utilities in his name to get around inspection process. He is also not maintaining all of his properties and has been issued a $500 warrant and a $1,700 warrant by the court because of his failure to appear on property maintenance issues. I believe he's due back in court tomorrow, but I don't know what the outcome will be or if he'll even show up.
Has he showed up before?
No, not in court.
Have you ever laid eyes on him?
Yes, we have seen him. We think.
Something fictitious, you know.
You don't know?
No, he's a real person.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I've got on that. What the big thing on that is what we need to see if everybody is on board and will have the back of this ordinance that we passed, that if there's a possibility that 100 to 150 people's utilities could be shut off.
So
At
that,
once.
I've got a question. That ordinance has a clause in there where you can't own more than something?
Doesn't have that now.
No.
And that's an alternative that Victor's gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here then?
Okay. There's another, I say, option.
Before you go to other options, just to wrap up the first one,
Okay.
one that's currently in place, one that we're legally able to do.
Yes.
You will potentially evict 100 to 150.
It will be the landlord's responsibility to do the evictions.
Because their responsibility.
He will have to notify his tenants that in 60 days that their house will no longer have utilities.
And that's different from eviction, but it kind of leads to that.
Yes.
So,
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit confused. How did we get here?
He did not register all of his properties.
Oh, just because his houses are not registered, this is.
To allow any inspections, and they're keeping the utilities in their name.
Okay.
By having them in his name, they're not rental properties, so we can't inspect them.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for years, I worked with City Light Gas and Water for almost 30 years, and for years, there was people that had several. I don't remember how many, I couldn't tell you. I know, Sonny Ridings
And that's still the
Dick
case.
Hilburn and
That's
people
still
like
the case.
that, they had a lot of houses in their name all at once.
Yes, yes.
So,
But that's kind of, that's different than this, you know. You don't have 150, and we don't have a problem with somebody having utilities in their name to work on their properties or get it ready to be inspected or anything like that. That's the second thing that I'm going to talk
okay,
about.
so they're just using it as a way to get away from it.
Yes, yes, to get that.
so
get
that
right with
they
that.
can still, it's okay to have a number of properties in your, utilities in your name,
Yes.
as long as you have them inspected.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. If he fails to notify these people in 60 days,
Mhm.
what happens to him when we shut the utilities off?
He don't have any properties to rent, no income.
See, that's what I mentioned to him prior to the meeting. It's possibly, we put a notice on the property to the tenant. Potentially, your utilities would be shut off in X amount of days. 60 days or 80 days, I believe it's 80 days really.
Yeah.
80 days time, your utilities could be turned off due to the fact that your landlord is done XYZ.
Because we could be putting some people in a bad spot.
Yeah, they're the victims, they're the victims of the landlord.
Especially if they have health problems or whatnot.
They're the victims of everything.
Especially here in
Yeah.
July and August.
Yes, yes, you're correct.
But that's, this is a problem that will get bigger if we do not do something about
I
it.
agree with you. I was just curious what the.
Let me go ahead and
Let's
do
do
the
the other
second one,
solution.
and then we can come back if we need
Yep.
to. The second thing that I got is the utility loophole, that, what I call it, that they're using. And our idea was to work with Terry McVeigh to amend the ordinance restricting the number of residential utilities an owner may have in their name at one time unless having pre-approval from the code enforcement office. So if we set that number to 3, which it's feasible that anybody could have 3, you may have one of your kids or your mother or something, and it's not a problem that if you have the need to have 8 on, if you're working on them or trying to get them inspected, or in the winter time, if you want to leave them on, if you can call the code enforcement office, all we've got to do is okay that through the program at City Light Gas and Water. We've got access to that. We can just do it. But that way we'll know if somebody's trying to do this again. So, and I know we'd had the questions before about doing a new ordinance, but when we made this ordinance to begin with, we said that it was going to be fluid and subject to change, as we needed it. So that way, if we amend the ordinance to put this in there, we're not making a new one.
But if you do, what have you got? Because if you enforce that ordinance, you still could then throw these people out.
If we amend this ordinance, we shouldn't have this problem,
Why not?
because they won't be able to have the
You
utilities.
got
in
100
their
and
name.
something houses now. You think they're all gonna jump in there and comply all at once just because you changed that ordinance?
Well, if they don't, then they can't have the utilities in their name, we'll have to shut them off.
Well, what will happen is that,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, you're right back where you are
Yeah.
now.
I think they'll come up with different LLCs or put them in someone else's, if you're determined to evade the law, you're gonna find a way to do it, I'm afraid.
Well, in that case, then we need to
I
go.
don't wanna keep preaching on we don't enforce ordinances, but that's right back to we don't enforce, we're not enforcing the ordinance we got, so we're trying to make another one that we probably won't enforce it. That's my outlook on that.
I'm ready to enforce this one.
one.
What's that?
I said, I'm ready to enforce this one.
That's why me too. It's an ordinance, why not enforce
Well,
it?
this is not a vote, but I asked Steve and Victor, I asked them to make a presentation to you all, because you're the ones who will receive the phone calls on the laws that's been passed. And so I asked your input, and then they can take care of it from there. But once this meeting's over tonight, whatever the input is the way what's gonna happen tomorrow.
well, the suggestion is a good one, that we go out and put a note on those doors. Now, this is 150 notes that we go out and put out, but what we can do is we can explain what happened, and when the landlord's permission expires, then they've got 60 days, and we can tell them that that's what's gonna happen, and maybe they will get back to the landlord and say, can we put it in our name then, so we don't get cut off? Maybe we start, and we'll have a month to see what happens.
I can't believe a landlord that owns 100 houses is not making payments on it. So now if he loses 100 people paying rent, or even 75 of them are paying rent, he ain't gonna be in business very long. Somebody else is gonna buy the house.
What's this guy's name?
Eddie Flores.
He lives in Paraguay.
But we all know that he probably don't own them no more than a year.
How long has he owned these houses?
The first set since January probably.
I think you had a few
How many made the
before.
A few
ordinance?
before
Yeah.
January,
They
and
moved-
then 55 in the last month
they
from
moved
another.
They moved from somebody to,
Yes.
and this 150 basically?
Yeah.
Is them houses what you would say, I'm probably gonna say this wrong, the bottom of the barrel?
Yes.
You would know when driving down the road.
That's what, there's other things that you could get besides.
I'm gonna guess that 90% of them will not pass an inspection.
$50,000 and $60,000. I got it.
Mr.
On a good
Moe,
day.
Yes.
going back to where you said there are two warrants out, one for $500 and one for $1,700. So what does that mean? Does that mean that he could be
He
arrested?
could be arrested. He's been arrested once on a $500 warrant, and he paid it, and then didn't show up at the next court date, so they give him a $1,700 warrant. So, I don't know how the court works. I don't know if he lost that 500 because he didn't show up at the next one.
Yeah, if you go to the period, you just lose that.
He's already been arrested on one of our, on this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they made him pay the $500 and agree to appear at the next court.
Yeah, but $500, I'd pay that to keep my 150 going.
Yeah. Well, the next one was $1,700, and he's due at court tomorrow.
But he's making, say, $600, $700 a month off rent on these houses, I mean, that's no money at all. That's not even as much rent.
Yeah.
But on this letter, who's gonna deliver this letter?
It'll be certified mail.
Certified mail.
To the owner,
To the owner.
Yes, to the
Flores.
Yes.
But the tenants
Yeah,
would be
that's what I
different.
was
That would be
asking.
like a sticky,
Yeah.
like a commercial sticking out a Post-it note, like
Yeah, and you won't even know if you're giving it to the guy that actually lives there.
the front door.
You
You
know.
just put it on the front door.
Yeah, okay.
This property will be
Yeah,
utilities.
could be unless it's
Yeah, could be.
inspected, yeah.
Well, if we're gonna shut them off, we gotta give those people some kind of notice.
Well, 60 days is enough.
Yeah.
It's 80 days.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Yeah, that's plenty of time.
I just wonder if
Hey,
it's,
and I'd like to say this, if there was somebody, like you said, with a medical problem,
Yeah.
if they come forward, we're not that people. You know, but I don't think we're gonna have 150 people with
But
problems.
When
Yeah.
if they do decide to do that, put the utilities in their names, that will require an inspection
Yeah.
of the house.
Well,
So,
Sorry, another question. What if he refuses to let them put utilities in there? Can he do that?
he can't.
Could we shut off?
So the
Right.
utilities
Shut off.
Yeah.
shut down. And he
And then
cannot turn them back on unless they're inspected.
You said for 6 months?
He can't apply for rental license again for 6 months after they
Only
do.
the owner.
but he
Is
doesn't
that-
have one now, right?
Is that property, is that,
But in the, if his, before he can get another license, we can make that he has to have them inspected, even one at a time as he registers them.
I just wanted to say this out loud, so I know the answer, or we discussed this before, but, so if the property changes ownership, it still has to have inspection,
Yes.
because this has happened. So either way, the property be inspected. So whether they swap names.
On the
Yeah, but they're gonna swap that back.
If he picked up 55 more houses, why weren't they inspected at that time?
Because they were registered under another landlord, and he,
So we have,
He signed
now we
that.
have one that is really
yes.
circumventing the ordinance. So they pooled their lower houses into one person
Yeah.
and let him take the fall.
I'm all for putting that notice on the door.
So if he shows up in, I'm sorry, Jenna.
I was not a proponent of this at the beginning until I've learned a little more about that. And now I understand it a little bit better. I think we're doing the right thing.
By enforcing the ordinance,
Yes.
current ordinance.
So, Mr. Moak, if he shows up in court tomorrow as expected, what happens then? What is
It'll
that?
be up to court, and he'll be in court over property maintenance issues. It has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
And it's for not taking care of any of the other properties that he has.
That's hurting our neighborhoods.
Right, right.
He's not knowing his investment, but
And
it's
everyone
hurting
else has
you
to
or your
live
neighbor,
with
the
it.
neighbor of this
Yeah.
property, it's affecting them.
Or he's got junk in the yard or whatever it is.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And so, and if he does not show up tomorrow, then what happens?
I would guess that the judge would issue another warrant, probably higher than the 1,700.
I mean, maybe this person needs to spend some time in jail. I mean, do we have that kind of enforcement action? I mean, I
think
hate to
that's
be
entirely
that.
up to the judge.
Because this is
on
just not
the-
right.
This is judge at this
Yeah.
point. At that point, it's a judge.
It's the judge's discretion, okay.
And I don't know if or how or when it comes to that if he gets a high enough warrant, can he be extradited?
Not on ordinance, not on ordinance. As long as it's misdemeanor charge, we can't prosecute.
Well, does a misdemeanor become, I mean, can.
An ordinance is basically an infraction, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
but, I mean, a dollar amount, will that make it a misdemeanor?
Unless,
Got up to $3,500?
that can be a good prosecutor question, because I'm not really sure at what point it becomes a felony. You know, if it's 3 misdemeanors, y'all may take it up to, I'm not sure property maintenance falls into that, I don't know.
And, I mean, we have this ordinance, it's being flagrantly disregarded, it's unfair to all the landlords who are doing all the right things. It's so unfair to them, because, you know, they may not like it, but they're doing the right thing. And some, you know, you don't get to pick what laws you're going to adhere to.
So from here, it sounds like to me, towards the ordinance. With notice stuff.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so, and what we hear now is, we'll see what happens at court tomorrow, but we suspect that nothing will happen there. But then what we'll do is we'll enforce the ordinance, and we'll begin immediately to put notices on the doors of the people who have those properties.
Make sure they're sticky enough where they can't come off, can't be like
Okay. Yep.
commercial grade sticky note.
Okay.
If you need to make one printed up or something, you know, printed, whatever we need to do.
Okay?
And we'll do that. That's a hard job, Victor. Thank you, Ellen. Get this support.
Thanks, Victor.
But it's important.
It's important, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really quick on that, Brian's helped a lot with some of the things that I've asked him with, and he's brought something to my attention. Half the people on these things don't come to court. He'll have a stack of papers this high, he's still got a stack this high, and nobody didn't even show up to court. So sometimes you're not doing nothing on Wednesday, go to court, the first and third. It's pretty entertaining.
Sometimes.
And this, you know, this rental ordinance, this whole thing stems from, at least I feel like it stems from cleaning up our town. That is the reason why we have it, to get our neighborhoods clean and get our town respected.
We have 140-something people, we only have 1 or 2 that's circumventing the rules. They get to be punished.
Sir. Okay, so that's all of that. So we have no old business listed, but I am going to take a little minute here in this old business. I wanted to inform Mr. Young, but also the whole council, Elm Street. There's a residence on Elm Street that has had a front end loader parked there for many years. It is no longer there.
Where did it get seen?
Thank you.
But, thank you, Brian, for working on that and keeping that after that. That's,
Thank you.
and you also reported earlier before the meeting started that Covina address has had a remarkable cleanup,
Much better.
much better cleanup.
Well, that just goes to show you, you clean up the city one front end loader at a time.
Yes, sir.
Wish we could work.
We need to use that front end.
I had some calls about the Hardee's, the former Hardee's property. It's gonna be getting taken care of by our street department. So the abatement order has been given, so it will be mowed before 4th of July. On that same note, I would ask our citizens to please take care of your property. Mow your property, pick up your trash on your property, and any property you may own here in the city limits. It is our responsibility to take care of our town, period. And I ask that everyone do that, not be told to do it, but just do it because you want to do it for the sake of our town. I'll get off my,
Can I get on a horse?
go for it.
I pass by Emerson, the old Emerson building, every day. Who owns that?
3 Rivers.
Can't we say something about them getting that cleaned up?
I'm-
Or have you?
We didn't get much response out of it. I drove by there today, I'm gonna start on it again this
Go
week.
by the old factory or 3 Rivers?
The old factory.
Okay. My fence is falling down.
Some of
all
the,
rubbish.
Oh, yeah. Don't drive that far.
some of the problem is that they've let that grow to cut for hay as well, yes.
Trees?
That's the back.
The back half of
The
it.
commercial street side they do.
Well, that's not,
The community garden.
I've never seen anybody grow hay on blacktop.
Yeah.
Big enough,
Yeah.
it's big enough to cut.
Yes.
Special thing.
Hybrid hay.
Good for birds, maybe, because they need it for the gizzards, but anyway, it's awful. We get on people all the time, but that's been out there for 10 years, 5 years since they tore it down.
I've recently started having a little dialogue with
I'm sorry?
I've recently started having a little dialogue with Three Rivers.
Okay, I didn't know who to have dialogue with.
So I'm gonna see how that takes, but I hope it will. I'm speaking with, how'd you go up there for Three Rivers, so,
All the way to Poplar Bluff,
all the way properly, on the second floor. Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
yes ma'am?
Also on old business, I just remind everyone, if you haven't filled out a survey yet, this is the last week to do so. There's some extra cards up here. We have hard copies at the office. We've received about 271 surveys back, which is a goodly number to help us inform our discussions, but we have 10,000 people here, so it'd be great if a few more people could fill out a survey. Thank you.
It's really quick too, I mean,
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mr. Young. Doesn't take long at all.
Very easy.
Had a lot of seniors fill it out.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty.
Okay, we're gonna jump into new business now. We have item A, tourism marketing contract with the Kennett Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to note in your packet, there's a staff summary there, a memo from Jan explaining that, and I'll ask her to go over that for you.
Yes, this, Mr. Johnson, Christian Johnson, the Executive Director of the Chamber, brought this contract in May. So this, what you have attached is the annual tourism marketing contract for the Kennett Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is currently recognized by the Missouri Division of Tourism as the official designated marketing organization for Duncan County. And the contracted amount of $25,000 is paid monthly from the tourism tax fund.
Monthly,
That's yearly.
Yes.
That's
Well, they get the amount of $25,000 is divided out into monthly payments.
Okay,
That's what I should have said. We don't pay them 25. Thank you, Mr. French. I appreciate that.
you printed
Keeping
it.
me in line.
this is something we do every year, basically.
Yes, sir. We've done it, well, back when I was at the chamber, we passed it's a lodging tax, so that's where that money comes from.
Well, we need a motion to enter into discussion on this contract.
I'll make
Yes.
a motion. I'll make this, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Now it's time for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a suggestion that we postpone this until we have a chance to receive a marketing plan for how the chamber plans to use these funds. This is an agreement for services, but it doesn't tell us exactly, what the objective is, what geography this will cover, calendar of events, how each would be promoted, do we know how many tourists we might expect to receive from this promotion? For example, last year we had the special eclipse, so you could go back and you could, festival, whatever, you could go back and look at, well, how did our sales revenue increase in that time period? Or for the Delta Fair, how does our sales tax increase during that period? Just to kind of see how this promotion is creating results. Fall into Arts, Kennett Cruisers Weekend, we have a big boost in attendance then. Like overall September, I would think would be a higher sales tax or revenue than in other months. And I have no objection at all to the chamber doing this. The chamber does a good job. I just think, if we're allocating these funds, we'd like to have a little bit more of an idea of what the plan is for how they will be used.
And I'd point out that that's not tabling it, which leaves it indefinitely. Postponing means we're mandatorily required to bring it up to you at the next meeting.
Could I provide some information on this?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Ryan and I have spoken about this a little bit. So our marketing plan is essentially what you should have gotten a handout of in May when I approached the council with this. We don't have a strict, this is what we're going to do this time because it's so dependent on funding with the state. It changes year to year, and throughout the year it can also change depending on if the organizations approach the chamber within enough time for us to get certain ads allocated for that. So for example, we planned with the state ahead of time. We have a budget grid that is decided upon a month before the beginning of the fiscal year. So in that lines out which billboards we're gonna place, radio ads we're gonna place, print ads that we're gonna place. And so last year, we scaled that back a little bit because, for one thing, we don't have as many events as we used to in Kennett, but also because I cannot get that approved by the state and then bring it before you guys for allocation if we don't receive a radio ad from the JCs, just for example, before the barbecue cook-off in enough time. So it's difficult to lay out exactly which ad is going to be which, but many of them are evergreen. So tonight I actually need to request an allocation for our quarter one ad, print ad in Showing Missouri magazine, that every year will advertise the Fall Arts Festival, Kennett Cruisers Car Show, and you know, things like that going on in town. The summer we'll advertise agriculture, tourism. In the winter we try to promote waterfowl tourism. It just depends on how the funding that we are approved for by the state, how that's spread out amongst different weekends.
I'm sorry, so I need to clarify maybe then. So you're saying the $25,000 that's paid to the chamber is being utilized for these ads, and we don't need to pay
No.
extra for these ads?
No, that $25,000 is the contract for the chamber to handle that for the city. There's a lot that goes into this, and at times it's very time consuming to manage this, especially last month when we're trying to get things ready for the next year and doing our year-end stuff. So that $25,000 is just the price to make things easier on the council and easier on city employees.
Okay, I just thought, because I'm doing that wrong.
No,
Okay.
and we never spend anything without me coming before you and saying I need to request allocation of $675 for this specific purpose. You know, most of you know my background is good, I'm all about transparency and sales tax dollars, lodging tax dollars, they should all go to what they're supposed to.
I guess, Mr. Johnson, but is there a marketing plan that you have that you operate from? As far as how you plan to increase tourism, you know, what, are you setting some goals and objectives, looking at new things to do? Does that exist someplace?
Yeah, most of that stuff is just what we give to the state for this grant that we manage. So we will tell them we need this billboard ad in this month for this purpose. We expect it to reach this many individuals. If we're going to run a ad for Fox Radio, they can provide us the reach that will provide us that will have over X amount of days. And then, like you were saying earlier, we try to look back and see what effect that may have had in town. Those are never concrete numbers because, you know, there could be a lot of reasons why there's an influx, but yeah. I'd be happy to provide a summary of what was in the handout last time with some more details, but that's the gist of how it works. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, let's try it. Is that what you're after, or is this?
Not-
That'd be a good time to.
Not really, but, you know, it sounds like, you know, what I'm looking for doesn't really exist, so.
You're looking for, let's say, like, we have a budget from July the 1st to June, that's kind of what she's looking for from you.
Well, no, not really a budget, but just things like.
No, not a budget.
But,
it
you know,
would be
a plan, you know, it's like, well, you know, we think we could increase our tourism if, you know, we talked briefly about the website, and I know you've got some ideas about that, you know, because it doesn't have current information on it. You know, just, you know, I know you mentioned in the contract we work with the BRPC on their tourism and things of that nature, and I was just trying to figure out, you know, what we are doing to increase tourism, and is it also, you know, business development, you know, for attracting new businesses to Kennett as well.
No, this contract doesn't apply to business, that's
Right.
just the chamber itself for the contract purpose. The only reason that we handle any of this is due to the contract. But I'd be be happy to, like I said, provide you some more information. Hopefully that'll kind of put you at ease a little bit.
Maybe you're looking for the scope of services. Like,
Well,
what-
I think the
what-
scope is really in the contract. You know, I'm just thinking of, you know, how do you market Kennett?